I love my life. 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 None of we don't know where tomorrow might bring, cause the future the hours away. So me I live my life today. Me I live my life today. Yeah, so long me make me talk what I want for talk. Me have enough to say. So me I go live my life today. Me I go live my life today. So everybody help me sing it out. Oh, oh, me love my life. Oh, oh, me love my life. Oh, oh, me love my life. So me I live my life today.
Hey guys, so we are here working on some of our splicing on our Colligo dyneema rigging. Super exciting to be like onto this step of the mass refit. I figured we'd just kind of show you our setup and then do some filming of like our actual splicing. So this is kind of what we got going on here. Set up with a nice cutting board. We have our Colligo fittings. These are line terminators. These are our cheeky tangs. We've got some fids. We have a really nice sharp ceramic knife we got from Amazon. A good Sharpie marker. Our new digital rigging scale. A tape measure. And Nestor. Dyneema. So this is our first splice right here. We did one of the cheeky tangs. It's a brummel splice. And we got a really nice taper on it. We followed the instructions on the Colligo Marine YouTube video. So that was really nice to have. I'll put the link down in the bottom in case anyone else needs that. But yeah, this came out super great. It now needs to have the line stretched a little bit because during shipping, they say that the lines can loosen up even though they are pre-stretched under heat. So we will stretch this and then do the splice on the other end. So very exciting.
So the first step is to measure the very length of your respective size of dyneema. So we have a 9mm dyneema. There's a specifications on the Colligo rigging website, and it is 25 inches. So we mark 25 inches from the end, and make sure you mark it on the apex. Is pretty important to mark it where the three strands meet. And now we marked basically the diameter of our splice. As well, you want to kind of like mark it on the apex.
Okay, so when Nestor's talking about the apex, I just want to show you guys what we're talking about here because it's kind of confusing. It's kind of at the point of this strand where it meets these other two strands. So you have 3 strands meeting right here. And if Nestor opens that up, you can see that mark on all 3 of those strands. And that's important because you are opening this braid up a lot while doing this splice. And if you only mark one of those strands, it's really hard to tell where you need to be opening and putting the fids through.
So you wanna, now, this is the beginning of the brummel stride. So you wanna pass this one in the middle of the first, on the second line. This is our first measurement of 25. And the second line is the distance, the circumference, the area of the splice. So you can take that out, and you want to basically do that. And you want to do it in the center of the line that you have. It's a 12 strand row line, so you want to have 6 in the top and 6 in the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And you want to be really careful that you're not sticking your fid through the strands. So you can kind of see here on the end, singular strands there, and these are the full size strands here. So you just want to be careful that you're not pulling out single strands like that.
And definitely you want some of the good Selma fits. This is pretty good. So check this out. They have a nice little hook there. You put the dyneema in there, and look how easy you pass it. That easy.
Nice.
That easy.
You can see though on the Colligo Marine video that he doesn't have these fancy fids and is able to do it without them. This just makes life a lot easier. So now you put your line terminator back on. In this case, it's one of our cheeky tangs.
And basically you want to lock this splice and do this. Mark it 1/4 of an inch of where they meet.
And this is the end that...
And this is the loose end that comes out
yeah.
right here. Now we take it out again. And this is second line.
And so now we're gonna invert the braid on itself.
So you want to do the same, open it up and find the middle. And this one,
use the bigger fid to just create a little more space there.
And to pass it and invert it, because this is what we're gonna do.
Beautiful. And he's just gonna pull that all the way through. And work it with his fingers a little bit. You can see that he just inverted that braid on itself there.
So when you pass it that way, it straightens out.
So now we're gonna open that hole up right through that same hole again and just make it big enough because we're gonna pass this eye through it.
That's why you want the Selma fits. And we're gonna pass it from there this way. So you want to
Just close down the eye a little bit and pinch it. Nestor just puts a fid from each side, one from one side, one from the other, and then you can kind of work those against each other and open that hole right up. Super nice.
Just plenty big.
Yeah, that's nice space there, and then we're gonna pass our eye through that.
And you see how it's straightening the inversion that we did? It kind of like
It'll pull it back to
it
the right
brings
way.
it back, and that's the inverted, the brummel lock.
This one passes through here, and this one passes through here, and it locks itself in place. Boom, just like that.
So now we have the brummel splice locked, and now we're gonna have to get the chiquitang in that splice. So the lip of the chiquitang is a little bigger, so you have to kind of like stretch and work the dyneema. You know what I mean? If you want a nice snug fit, it's gonna be harder obviously in the beginning, and you're gonna work more. So you could leave it a little longer and it's gonna be easier, but for the eye, I like to be nice and snug. So when you tension it, it's definitely gonna have, you know what I mean, some space there, but it ends up being like the other one that we did, so.
And now we've got to bury that end in there. So you measure it like this with your end on the table and the other line there. You can.
It's the same as the other one.
It's 25 inches to the end. If it's longer, you can cut it. So first we need to mark where it needs to come out. So basically on Colligo Marine, they said you measure the length of your end and then give it like another 5 inches for your fid to come out.
And here as well, you want to open it up and mark like 1/4 of an inch. And this is the hardest part. To start getting this started.
So just very patiently working the braid to open up so you can get that fit in there.
Once you have it in a little bit, you can kind of like keep pressing it, loosen it, and I like to back it out and jiggle it.
Part of the lawnmower outside the house that we're staying in. Not the best for a tutorial video, but it is what it is. And he's gonna start sinking that end right in there. you don't want to get any of those single little strands off of these main strands, and that's because every one of those that's ripped weakens it just a little bit more. So you just want to be careful about that. Alright, Nestor's got his mark right here. So
and you can come out a little farther than the line, because all that does is gives you plenty of space to bury it. So now we mark the taper. We wanna ease this out. Colligo has all the measurements and all the calculations for it already. For 9 mil, you do 12 inches. And since it has 12 strands, you do a 12 by 12. You mark it every inch, and every inch you take a strand.
And you're measuring 12 inches from the end. We're gonna mark a line every inch for those 12 inches. And this part's particularly important for the strength of your splice, so that there's no friction created on the inside of your line. 11, and then 12 will be the last end here. You're gonna make sure that you mark these halfway around the entire line, because you're gonna be taking strands out, and if it's only marked on 1 or 2 strands, by the time you get the upper strands out, you'll have no marks left at the end. So just make these real big marks at least halfway around the line. And now you start taking out 1 strand at every one of those marks. Grab your little fid. So you can see Nestor just took out 1 strand there. You're gonna cut with your nice sharp knife right at that mark, at that 1 inch mark. Beautiful. And it gets a little trickier towards the bottom, obviously, because there's a lot less strands.
You leave it long. You see
Your
how I ended up?
last end should be at that 12 inch mark, and you don't cut the last strand. And then you go ahead and bury it. You just nurse that right back over it.
And then it's all about consistency, right? So you see how even they look.
Yeah.
And definitely where
And
they
the taper.
the taper is the same length. It's more like for visual as well, and so it's all like, you know, symmetrical. Well, the taper is important because it doesn't put any strong edges on the inside, like Annabelle said, because right now we have the same line kind of like locked and then served right on the inside, like a Chinese finger trap. So the outside, so the, you know what I mean, the one on the outside is pinching and holding. The more you pull on it, the more tension it's gonna be, and the harder it's gonna hold it. So it's nice and even.
So if this is not tapered, the circumference of this line is thick inside the other line, and the outside strands that are holding it in place will actually be chafing up against that thick piece of rope in there and can cause chafing on the inside. So when you taper it to a point like that, it makes a nice smooth transition. And if you have a bulky transition, you risk chafing on the inside where you can't see it, which is extremely dangerous. So now these splices need to be stretched, just their first stretch, which is around 500 or 600 pounds. And that's just to make sure that any opening of the line that's happened during shipping or during splicing gets closed up a little bit, and then we'll measure and prepare for doing the splices on the other end.
So we've been splicing for days now. I think this is day 2. The first day we were just kind of like figuring it out and just understanding the technique. We are stretching the line with a camelon in my truck. You put a splice first on one end, and then you tension it to 500, and then you do the other splice, and then you set it to 2000. All the splices are setting, and that's part of our backstay. I have my dad's little camel on here to like fine tune it, and that's about it. There's a couple more days, I guess, of splicing and stretching and setting, and that's about it. I have to wait for some pins that they're making for us in the Colligo headquarters. Some odd measurements, some long pins that go on the mast head. That's about it. We should be stepping the mast hopefully in a week. So, woo!
And this is like our little setup that we have here. So Nessa tied this around this concrete pillar. We have dyneema tied, and then we have a little come along action here, which hooks to our scale. And then our scale is tied to another piece of dyneema, which has a bow line into our fitting. And on the other end, we have another bow line that goes into this fitting and a knot around the hitch on the truck. And it struggles to do 2,000 pounds. You can see the marks. We had our 4x4 on.
Sorry, Tomas.
Going full blast. And it looks like we burned a little rubber.
Oh, we did. Oh, we did. On the 4, look. The back tires and the front tires.
Our towing capacity is probably about 1,500 or so. 2,000, and the truck stays in one spot. Basically, we're tightening the line to about 1,700 with the truck, and then using the come along to bring it up to 2,000. We're like tightening it up to 2,000, and you can see that it's stretching, so it's slowly coming down from 2,000. And we're just gonna kind of keep bringing it up to 2,000 until it holds at a pretty steady 2,000, and that means that there's no more stretch going on. It's not loosening.
Ooh, rigging we keep doing. I've been tackling all the wire rigging. Since we have replaced everything with dyneema, the only thing that we keep as wire is the inner forestay and the head stay. I just did the inner forestay. I just put this fittings on. And a new turnbuckle, as you can see, it's all shiny. You have it there, all stretched out. It's pretty straightforward. It's all pin to pin. One down, one to go.
Is that it?
That's it, I think.
So our new stays. Honestly, I thought the rigging was going to take more time. Nestor kept being like, yeah, and then I'm just going to splice like crazy. And I think he has spliced like crazy for like 3 or 4 days now. 4 days. But it's all done. It's a miracle. Nestor's got a great little workshop set up here. He's been working on all the rigging, and with everything we've got hiding in here, we are about to go tension the bobstay, and that will be the last piece of rigging that needs to be done. Woo, it's bright out here. As you saw last night, we were working on the stainless rigging that needed to be done and turnbuckles. Nestor got those all done last night for our roller furlers for our head sail and our staysail. We're just going to tension up this bobstay right now. It's the last stay, needs to get set at 2,000 pounds. I just talked to John Franta at Colligo Marine. They're making a couple of custom clevis pins for us, and they're going to send us that new fitting. When we were tensioning it to 2,000 pounds, Nestor had a piece of dyneema through the pin, and it squeezed the fork closed and left a stress mark. And so we're gonna get a new one of those, not risk it. I mean, we're putting all brand new rigging on. We might as well not have a weak spot to start off. Hopefully we'll have all that stuff in about a week and be able to put the mast up, which is so exciting. I'm really looking forward to being able to travel and sail again. Nestor and I really want to focus on getting some miles under our belt and setting the boat up so that we can fish off of it really well. You ready to tension this?
Yes, I am. So this is what I should have done with that one that I bent it, but I was not thinking about it. It was early in the morning and I was excited and I just ruined it. And I tied it to the pin and the knot slipped and squeezed it. This is how you're supposed to do it.
That's the last stretch. Now we're ready to get this on the boat.
Time to put this puppy on.